All right, all right. I'm sure people will be entering in as we go on through this, but welcome to our Learning Hour webinar series on zSpace and your LMS. To participate in today's session, we are going to encourage you to use all of the things. So there'll be times that you'll get to ask questions. You'll come off mute, but for right now, you can stay on. We'll use the chat a lot. I'll either post questions or we have people from zSpace who will be monitoring and helping those out. So feel free to ask questions or chat with other people during the session. And if you like something's interesting what they say, give a reaction. That also just helps me know I'm on the right track. A key thing, if you're typing inside of a Zoom chat and you want to type a message to everybody and kind of share it, but you want to put more than one line, use Shift and Enter, and that allows you to enter in more than one line and then you hit Enter when you want to submit it. Otherwise, you'd end up having 5 or 6 lines or 5 or 6 posts for one thing you're just trying to post. So again, encourage you to participate in this. This is the zSpace and your LMS learning hours. We're going to continue this learning hours for the rest of the year. So you're going to see not only topics like this, but other things that we feel like schools need and want to know more about. And so we're going to try this out with you all today and see how it works and adjust and learn from it as we all do, right? But we're going to focus on what does zSpace have and how do you integrate it with different LMSs. You all filled out your forms and told me the different ones that you have. And so there's a good amount of everything. So it's not just one area heavy. This is a recording and you will receive the recording after and we'll have that available. So if you have to skip out or if you need to send it to a colleague, you're more than welcome to have this recording. All right. My name is Nick Finelli. I am a Senior Customer Success Manager with zSpace. There's my email address. Feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions about this or anything else. We also, if you're interested and you like how you've learned this, but you want additional professional learning and you want to reach out and set that up, you can contact Prof Dev at zSpace and set that up for any type of training you might want. Just some background on me. I've been in education over 25 years, and I taught in elementary school and also taught as a kind of a technology coach in my school district in South Carolina. Before I came to zSpace this April, I had been working on my own as a consultant for Google, Microsoft, Apple, and doing professional learning and training for them. And so hence all the fun badges down here. All right, so our agenda is going to be this. We're going to look at zSpace activities. There are a lot of activities that people don't even know exist, and we're going to show you how our website has been changed and the look of it and the things that we have on there. So we're going to make sure you know where those activities are. How to grab activities such as the PDFs or the Google Doc or the Work Docs of those activities. Where the launches are, where the links are to launch these activities. So when you have an activity and you want to launch the zSpace actual activity on a zSpace device, you have a link that sends you right there, which of course makes it so much easier for that LMS to work. That's the whole idea. Is we're trying to make it easier for you to distribute and assess students in their work, especially with zSpace. If you've created your own, your own zSpace activities, there's a way to open those up. So we're going to make sure you share those because that also can be used in your LMS. If you created some on your own or modified an existing one and you want to be able to distribute it to your students. We're also going to look at just assessment in general and like beyond just documents, because I know we provide PDFs, basically the worksheets and the lesson plans involved, but what other ways do we collect assessments and how can you using zSpace? And if we have time at the end, we're going to do little breakouts by LMS. So you can choose your LMS, go to that breakout room and talk to other people who use that LMS and how you might be using it in zSpace. So that's our plan. So now, just so you all know who's in the room, we're going to do a little chat thing. So if you use the chat on the right or on your screen, find the chat at the bottom and go ahead and post your school or organization, your role, which LMS you use, and how you want to facilitate learning activities with zSpace. I gave an example on the right. I see Sheena, who's moderating right now. She is also posted, so there are lots of things, and she's added her email as well as any other zSpace folks who are in here that work directly with customers on my team with me will add theirs. And remember, if you want to add more than one, just shift enter and it allows you to do 4 lines worth or 5 or 6. All right, got people from all over. Ooh, Anne Arundel County. That's where I went to school. Awesome. I grew up in Crofton. All right, we got Tiffany on. Yay, Tiffany. Shanna Smith. Well, we got lots of people from different areas of the country teaching different things. Hopefully you'll look at this list too and see how vast zSpace is. It's not just a K-12 curriculum. It's not just a CTE curriculum. It's not just for health sciences. There are so many different ways to integrate and use it in different types of curriculum. So make sure you check out these people who are listed in here as someone maybe to talk to. All right, I'm gonna give another minute, just a moment to get everybody in here. We got Auto Shop using Infinite Campus. Nice. And I did not mention, as my cohorts had mentioned, where they are customer success managers. I am a customer success manager in the Northeast and the Mid-Atlantic, kind of to the Mid-South, with the exception of the Carolinas, Georgia, and Florida, which Sheena is your person there. Oh, new to zSpace. Welcome. Thanks, Sarah. All right. All right, well, I'm going to move on. Y'all can continue in there. I always like to talk about this in my PD and then also just in general, because what you have in zSpace is the ability to bring in the zSpace activities and the zSpace content of the different models in all different ways. So when I look at this wheel here, I think of there are lots of ways I can interact and engage with students using zSpace, whether it's introducing something, trying to get them kind of interested and questioning them, like, what do you know? Some prior questioning, some basic knowledge. Or I could already have done an entire unit and then use zSpace to kind of deepen that understanding, or maybe have them summarize it. So now they're going on to a zSpace activity and they might already know the content, but they're using it to help them kind of cement that knowledge and be able to articulate it to us. So you can see there's lots of ways to get in and use zSpace. So I'll bring this wheel up a lot just because I feel like it's an important area to think about how we use this and how we integrate. Now, this is the great spot that we want to make sure we can all go to. And so we'll post that into the chat so that way you can get there quickly and easily, but it's zspace.com/edu. And this is where the teacher resources are. And this is where I'm going to be going. I'm going to be showing some screenshots, but I'll also show some live of us getting there and jumping on zspace.com/edu. So one of the things you'll find on zspace.com/edu is a listing of applications. And when you click on a specific application, and these applications are either ones that you have or ones that you may be interested that zSpace has. So over 40 some odd applications now. But inside on the application page, you're going to see a little icon at the top that says activities. These are where, if you click on it, it will show you the activities already set up with lesson plan, with differentiation, objectives, the worksheets that come with it for that particular application. That's an easy way for teachers who work with you at your school or others to look at it and say, well, what applications do we have? There's so many, I don't know which one we have. You tell them what you have, and they can go directly and see the activities that can be used with that one. That doesn't say you can't come up with your own, but these are the pre-made ones that are ready to go. So that's one way. And I'll go to the website after I share all of these just to review that. Another part, just on the website itself, if you scroll down a little bit, you're going to see, you can just browse by learning content. So instead of looking at a particular application, you can be like, all right, I want to look at all your physical science stuff, because maybe you have one application, or maybe you're new to zSpace and you're like, I wonder what else is in physical science, because we only have Newton's Park, for example, and you'll see all these activities there. That's another way to look at the learning content. Another way is just on the main page. When you click on Teaching with zSpace, you'll get this drop down that has the education home, which is just zspace.com/edu. But when you click on search content, it will bring up an area where you can search by term, and it'll show you anything you're interested in looking at as far as a lesson or an activity. So here's an example of what you would get if you searched for cells. So this is, I actually opened up a cell theory. Actually, I'm going to change this. I'm going to go out of this particular site here. Let's make this a little bigger. There we go. And I'm going to go to this education home, and the first area that I talked about was the applications. So there's two ways to get there. One is you can just keep scrolling down and you can be like, oh yeah, there's experiences. That's what Nick was showing. When I click on it, it's going to have a nice little video. It's going to have some startup, but here is where the activities lie, or a quick launch to it. So when I click on this, now it automatically opens up the search with just only zSpace experience activities. So this is an application, and these are the activities aligned with those experiences. Most of the experiences are simulations and kind of guided. So you're going to see a lot of it can be done without necessarily an activity. But notice I increased how much could be seen on a page, and there's a ton here. There's tons in different subject areas. Some are more exploring, has experiences are more exploring, and others are not. If I go back up to my Teaching with zSpace and search for content, let's go back to the home to show you. Let's say I was talking earlier, physical science was one of the areas I was interested in. If I select that, well, now I get a listing of all the physical science activities. If you see a grade level over here, this is just what the grade level is written, or the lesson was written in to have this grade level in mind, or this area in mind. So elementary school, middle school, and high school. Doesn't mean you can't select a high school one if you're in elementary. Doesn't mean if you're in high school you can't select a middle school activity. It's just how the lesson was designed. And we know that if you taught long enough, you can easily integrate and change any lesson and pull the pieces that you might need from it. But it also has an icon that's telling you what application it will use. And this code here is the quick launch code that you launch the actual activity in Z Central. So I'm going to go back and do the last part. And the last one was just searching. So I'll search for content. And this time I'm just going to type in cells. And as soon as I type in cells, it's going to list all of the activities, the grade levels, the application, the launch. Same thing, it's just highlighted up here a little easier. And I'm going to choose cell theory. And this is what shows up. So for you as a teacher, this is the lesson on cell theory. Usually there's either a video or a screenshot to show you what it may look like for that particular application. It's going to have the info. You're going to have your launch code here, which if I click right now, it's going to open up right on Z Central. And since I'm on a zSpace device right now, it's going to launch it. Here, this link you'll be using a lot with your LMS, because if you copy this, it will create that link and you can post that into your LMS. So that way, when the student is on the LMS and on their zSpace device, it'll just open right up. Now, of course, if they're on their phone and they click on the link, it's going to say, sorry, you don't have the zSpace application that allows you to do that activity. But it doesn't mean that you can't put that link in your LMS. And then there's all these other things that are involved with the particular areas of a lesson or an activity. So I'm going to switch back to my my PowerPoint slide here. So one of the things you want to look for in making sure you're using and understanding how to use your LMS with your activity is to select the activity and then select the teacher lesson plan, which is just going to be listed at the top far left. It's going to be a PDF, and it's going to look something like this. It's going to have essential questions. It's going to have objectives. It's going to have activity questions and answers. It's even going to have some sort of wrap up or closing activity, and maybe even some differentiation. This is what it looks like. They give you an estimated how much time it might take, because that'll help you planning it. Of course, you would want to do the activity yourself before you just send it to the students. But sometimes when you read the lesson, you realize, oh, well, there's a whole setup that I need. Students need to understand this, or maybe there's an unplugged activity that they should be doing prior to using the zSpace activity. So this is crucial for you to help you integrate. So once you know this, then this is where the integration comes in with your LMS. You've read your lesson, you've looked at it, and you're like, okay, so now I know what the lesson is involving. What do the students see? Well, one thing they can have is a worksheet. And many people, if they're not using an LMS, they print out this text worksheet. It's basically whatever is going to be guided in that lesson as they're seeing it, it will show those questions. And so you could physically have the paper of that. Now that's the PDF worksheet. Some people like to use in their LMSs the PDF worksheet. The reason being, it's already done. You don't have to change anything. It's totally aligned with what you're doing in the lesson. So students can actually toggle back and forth on the PDF. If you insert this in your LMS and have the ability to do annotations, some people in Google Classroom might use a Kami assignment and put the PDF in there. That way they don't have to worry about making it into a Google Doc. And then students can actually use inking to write directly on there rather than typing. Or if you're having them do something else with annotations, but it just allows that. If you have a touchscreen device, or the students have those, and it's much easier for them to write on it than typing. Younger students, PDFs really work great in this manner. If you're using something like Canvas or Schoology, there's ways to have those PDFs, be directly on there, and you be able to grade and look at them with the grade checkers. So you have those possibilities directly in your LMS. So PDF might be your go-to, because you're like, okay, I don't have to change anything. I don't have to save anything. I have it. I have the file already. But there's another step. If you're thinking, okay, I like those questions, but I'm not going to use all of them. That might confuse the students. Or I'd like them to type in there or add pictures or do some things that maybe they couldn't do in the PDF. That same PDF is available in an editable version as a Google Doc worksheet or Microsoft Word. So the same cell theory question worksheet turns into your editable doc, in which you can add different questions to it. You can change things around. Instead of saying take a picture, you could say draw a picture, or take a screenshot. Whatever you need to help your students understand what's needed. Maybe you're breaking the assignment into two different lessons or two different things that they're turning in. You can chop up that worksheet to make it easier in the editable forms. So it'll just give you, it'll download it and force you to have a copy of each one, depending on whether you did Word or Google Doc. There are other things besides lessons. So sometimes there's things called idea sheets, and if you actually just did a search in the web search for idea sheet, it would pull up. I'll do one up here. Go back. All right, I just typed in idea, and there's a comparing models worksheet, create your own story worksheet, story starters, exploration worksheet. Then there's all the idea sheets under here for different things. For engineering, there's your two shapes, birds, biomes. But when you start looking at the idea sheets, they're just kind of a format or a template for you, almost like a graphic organizer to help you. So the way I think about idea sheets is something like this. This is the idea sheet for cells. It lists the cells that the students can go to explore. So now you're giving them some choice, right? Almost like a choice board. And then they're picking whatever ones. Maybe they have to do 3 out of the 8 or something, or 4 out of the 8, but they're choosing. And then you have specific questions that you might want them to answer in there. So you can put your own questions or use the ones that are already in the idea sheets. The idea sheets also come with a kind of blank KWL chart. So if you're using this as exploratory, these PDF worksheets are great to start out either as a group or individually to see what people know and kind of take a paper trail. The same thing can be done with these observation sheets. So you can have, either students or you pre-select models and have them make observations based on their looking at that particular model. So it's not running per se a lesson or an activity, but you're kind of creating it. So I wanted you to know that openness is available too. And so by having these already ready, you insert them as any document inside of your LMS, distribute it to each student. Now they have their own copies and you're able to look at all of them. Now, besides the idea sheets, I did talk about your zCentral quick launch code. So this link right here, and I'm going to click on this one just to show you. I already linked it, so you can see it's brought up this exact lesson. So here's the lesson in zSpace Studio A3, and I just click on launch. So if this link, let's see up here at the top, this is the actual link that it provides in the lesson. This is what you would paste into your LMS for students to be able to quickly launch. Some people like to put, go to zCentral and launch it by typing A164. You can do that. You'll also notice on each activity at the top, it will show it based on what activity is. Activities have A's, and if it says AP, it would be an application. But that's another way for students to launch. So we've made it easier for you to just take a link and add that to it. We have the curriculum that we have the worksheets that you can edit or kind of just use already made, and then you just have them launch. And depending on what you have them doing, they're able to do the activity side by side. One of the things that I noticed that many students do not know, just because they've grown up in kind of a touchscreen computer world, and they're used to like swiping left and right and things like that to go from app to app. So if I launch this zSpace activity cell theory, and it's going to open up full screen, and I can start doing the activity. The activity is actually also shown up in here, but remember, it's not connected to your LMS in here. So they can use this to guide them, but I always just tell my students, the Google worksheet that I put on your Google Classroom, that's what I want you to use. It's going to be the same thing unless you made changes, but it's still going to guide them here to show them what they have. The part where it says answer with text, that's what they would answer on their Google worksheet. So the part that I think students may not understand, or you may have to guide them and teach them and scaffold the learning, is, okay, you want to answer this question, don't answer it here, go back to your Google Classroom. Well, a lot of students are like, well, where is it? And they end up closing this. But really all they have to do is hold down the Alt key on their keyboard and hit Tab, and it will bring back their previous screen, okay? And so if I was in Classroom, so let me see if I can pull up, there we go. So let's say I was in Google Classroom, they could pull up the Google Classroom assignment. So here's the one on kinetic energy, and this is their link. This is their Google Doc that went with it. they have this ready to go. And so now they're able to work through this and then go back to the zSpace activity and work on it, and then go to the next one, read through, do whatever they might need to do on that screen. And then they're like, okay, I'm supposed to be answering this question. So here's the question. How would this support Aristotle's belief of spontaneous generation of organisms? Well, again, students don't write it in here. They flip back to their document and they just start typing away there. So this is just an easy way, and that's just Alt-Tab for them to transfer back and forth. Because zSpace does open up full screen, that's why you have to do that, because it enables, by having it full screen, it allows you to use the full power of the 3D that you're getting with it. There are lessons for all different age areas, so and it's totally open-ended too in many ways. All right, I'm going to go back to this. I just have a couple of examples that I want to show you, and I'm just using Classroom as one example, but there's many ways. So this is a lesson on kinetic energy transfer. What I started out, instead of like a KWL, is I just posed a question to students. How does force affect the motion of an object? Okay, and then they would have to answer. Right? So it's just using the question strategy of getting them started and using that. And so I could ask class comments and so forth. But that's not the end of it, right? How does force, that's like my driving essential question. So I might ask this question later, but I'm using this as a Google question. Then go back here. Then after we've kind of started in this unit, we go to the next question, kinetic energy. Well, here is the classroom activity. I'm going to go ahead and view the assignment. What it looks like here is I just posted what the students would be doing, no different than you would be telling your students. I even put the Alt-Tab in there so they know how to use that. Here's the link directly to zCentral, and here's their personal doc, right? Their personal item. And I can show you here in Classroom. See, each student gets their own copy. Here's the link. So they have it all right here. Every LMS allows you to put in documents, allows you to have LTIs or links to other, whether you're using Google or Microsoft or Apple or any type of things, links to outside parties to be able to get those documents. So you should be able to put them in there. And as far as links, I didn't have to link it in here. I could have put it up there. That's fine. In Classroom, it's easier this way because they see the two icons, but of course you can attach those. You can set up any of your grading stuff just as you normally would. Go back. So that's another example of how, so they would do that activity, they would turn it in, you would be able to see everything they're doing, right? If they're doing it on the zSpace, then there's another step that's involved with them getting it back to you. So this makes it easier. You can see their progress. And if they need to pick up where they left off, last week, they can go back to their Google Doc, open up, oh yeah, I'm on question 7, and just go to that part. So the last part that I like to do also inside of just using a zSpace lesson, and I'll go to this kinetic transfer one so you can see, is I like to create my own little form from it. So I'm going to click on this just so you can see that. This is the same thing that was actually posted in the lesson plan. I just copied and pasted it and put it into a form so I could collect them all in one space rather than going from document to document. So that's another idea that you could use, is use any type of form to collect the data that students are working on, because then you can look at them side by side rather than each document. It does require, of course, text answers or multiple choice or something like that. If you want it self-graded, you could make that too. But I totally took this directly from the activity. So you can see, like, if the energy of the ball decreased after collision, how do you know the energy wasn't lost? Okay, I'm going to have to answer, respond to them anyway. So this gives me an idea of what students wrote, and it's asking them more higher level questions. So let's do this. I'm going to go back to our zspace.com and look up the kinetic energy activity just so you can see where I got that stuff from. So kinetic energy. Here's the kinetic energy transfer. This is the lesson. Here again, video. Here's the teacher lesson plan. And I didn't go into the other one because you just saw a snapshot, but when you go onto the teacher lesson plan, besides the essential questions, you actually have the questions that are asked in the zSpace activity along with suggested answers. Okay, so this is for you to get an idea of what the expected outcome is for that question based on what was done in the activity. And so you'll see the closing. Remember that last question I said, if the energy in the ball decreased after the collision, how do you know the energy wasn't lost? I just took that question and put it right inside of that form. And so that made it easy for me to take this lesson and put it in a digital format that I wanted to use to be able to collect it for everybody as kind of a reflection. This was suggested as a discussion, but I decided to use it as a kind of after the lesson was over, hey, let's see if they really understood this. So there's the same question or activity. All right, let me go back, sorry, to this. So that's launching them and getting them there. If for some reason you decided that you wanted to either create your own activities or you already saved activities, maybe you saved an activity in Euclid Shapes and you've been using that and you're like, oh, I want to continue to use that. Or you've created your own activity in Franklin's lab or Newton's Park. There's a way to put them in your LMS. The directions that we would like and the best way to make sure it happens is you actually have the student launch the application. So not the activity. Don't have them open up the file directly. So if you put that into your LMS and just had the file extension, it would be best that they download it first. And then once they download it, they launch the application. So if I had something created in Euclid Shapes, I would launch Euclid Shapes Sandbox, and then there's actually a place once you open up Sandbox to click open. Same thing with Studio. In Studio A3, if you have an activity saved that you created, you would have them open up the Sandbox or basically open up Studio A3 and then click on the load button and load that downloaded file. So these are the ones where you can create activities. So you got Vivid and Vivid Science and Vivid Anatomy. I already talked about these in these sciences, and then Studio. So launch the application, load or open, and then choose wherever you saved your file to actually launch it. So the file that's been downloaded or saved on your device. I'm going to pause there because that was a lot in those steps. So does anybody have any questions on how to open up activities you've already saved? And why it is best to launch the application first. You can just put it in the chat. I know Sheena and some others have been working.
You must have had a rock star explanation, Nick. So no questions.
All right, cool. Thank you. All right. We are going to be going over this when we do our studio session on July 19th. So I'll mention that again later, but Studio A3 is replaced zSpace Studio, and you can create and save your work in Studio 3, create your own activities. And so just showing you that you can save something and then there's the load button. So they're just right next to you. So it just really allows you to create your own work or have your students create something and then share it so that way you can open it up too. So students don't necessarily have to use those set worksheets or those set things. Like they could create something directly in one of those applications that I mentioned earlier. Studio A3 is kind of the catch-all one, but if they created their own Rube Goldberg machine in Newton's Park and they wanted to share it with you so you could experiment and do it, they would save the file. They would share it with you however you want it shared. Maybe you use your LMS. Maybe you have another way for students to share files that they create. But then you would go through the process of opening up Newton's Park. Then you click on open inside Newton's Park, and then you find wherever that file is that you downloaded for that activity. So that's really how that works. Here are some examples of different assessment types. I know I showed you a couple here. So you could have your students just work directly on the doc. That's like the easiest transition. You could have a form, right? They're answering questions in the form. So that way you get them all in one spreadsheet. You're able to kind of analyze it a little bit deeper. Or maybe you use a form because you want it to be automatically graded, right? So you put in multiple choice questions. And then those, and all LMSs have some sort of quiz integration, whether it's directly on there, like you create your own quizzes, like in Canvas or Schoology, or you're allowed to embed or integrate other things from like Microsoft or Google or quizzes or something else that you might use. The other thing you may want to consider doing as an assessment type is having students do the activity and maybe creating an assessment that is a video, right? So they record a video to explain their learning using zSpace. So they're holding up the model, they're talking about it, and they're sharing, and they submit that video. Maybe they use, their own format, or maybe you have an integration with Flip, and that allows you to have them turn it in via a video. So we don't want to limit it just to our kind of canned activities. You have all the ability and power based on what you're teaching and how you do to integrate it. But we've kind of set you out on what these activities are, but you could easily just do it with a model. You could easily have it using existing activities you already have in your curriculum and say, you know what, why don't you have, as a choice, you get to use zSpace to explain something or understand or teach the class. Maybe they use that as a choice for creation. So it doesn't have to end in that it's only the teacher is assigning stuff. I know LMSs are kind of geared towards that, but it doesn't necessarily have to be, and use a lot of choice and openness. This tool is with different models and different ways, allow the students to be those creators. So I'm going to come back to the circle and have you all think about this for a minute. And then what we're going to do is, with our time that we have, I'm going to break you out for 10 minutes into your own breakout rooms. And the breakout rooms are going to be for each LMS. So you'll get to choose what breakout room you want to go to. And the breakout rooms are designated by LMS. If there's one that, if yours is not listed, you're just going to stay in the main room. And we're going to have discussions about how you might use this. What ways are you already using, your LMS? What are ways that you think, based on what I taught you today or what I shared today, how could you use that in the future? And if you have questions, after that, that's when we'll come back and say, oh, we were trying to figure this out. We weren't sure about this. And that's what that will be for. So you'll see the breakout rooms have been opened, and you can go ahead and select your own breakout room. Should be 6 different rooms to choose from. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And you'll just have 10 minutes in there. So go ahead and select a room, and that'll allow you to go there. Thanks, Sheena. Looks like they're all starting to get there.
Absolutely. Looks like the rooms are filling up.
And if you need help, D2L Brightspace, that is, there's no separate room for that, but you can stay in this main room and we can talk about it. So D2L Brightspace uses a lot of different integrations. in New York City that's been branded as iLearn, but it's very similar. So I understand that one if you have questions about that. It's pretty robust. So Robin, you can stay here for that. Anybody who has one that's not listed, just stay in the main room. And you can either type in the chat. There should be a Blackboard room.
I can get you moved over there, John. Give me just a second.
Canvas. Yeah, Grace, let me see if I can get you into Canvas. There we go. Anybody else not seeing theirs? Francie, got you in there. And those people who don't have any, if you want to just kind of see what the talk is, go ahead and go to another room. It would be interesting to see how people are using it in different spaces. So feel free, especially if you're on from zSpace or you do training in many different platforms. You can go ahead and choose one if you don't want to just stay in one area. Yeah, D2L is Brightspace. That is clarification, Holly, yes. And Robin already answered that.
Nick, I'm going to go ahead and hop into one of the rooms, so I'll be back over here shortly.
That's fine. That's fine. All right, and those people who are remaining in this room, what types of things are you thinking about using in your LMS, or what are you wondering about? You can come off mute. This is meant for us to talk and share and see each other.
Hi, I'm Tia Strahan.
Hi.
Hi, I'm new to zSpace. So
Okay.
I did click Google Classroom, but I'm not too sure.
I'll get you in there so you can go to the classroom conversation. I can assign you. You're Tia, right?
Yes,
Okay. You'll be there in a second.
thank you.
You're welcome. All right. So Billy, Robin, have you used zSpace, and how have you, no, you haven't used it.
We're brand spanking new. Like
Okay.
we had a bare bones training a couple
Okay.
weeks ago, and then now what we're going to be doing is doing the individual apps. So I'm in dental, and so we'll do a dental coming up, I think this next week on Tuesday, I think is when we do that.
Okay.
And then there's a human bio one that we'll also use here in dental.
Right. So when you have more of, when we talk more of the CTE realm, you know, like just the specific dentals or the health, there's more in the allied health than anything, but like for the dental, that's such a new application. A lot of it is kind of run by itself or run by your specific program. So if you're using it in your classroom with an LMS and you want something like the students to get out of it, what I would probably do is start with like that questioning strategy or like some other previous assessment that you already have, and have them use the zSpace as the tool to help them investigate to find those answers. Does that make sense?
It does. It really does.
Yeah, that's probably going to be your easiest way of capturing student learning, but then also having them use the zSpace. Just providing the links in zCentral. So there's no activities for the dental, you could go to zCentral and pull up the link for that, and it'll show it up at the top. And then that's what they launch to get in, or you could give them the code.
So as time goes on and more programs or instructors are doing this, we can save what we have, and then does that get put into
well, if you're using it like with your you said you use Brightspace.
Mm-hmm.
So if you create something in Brightspace, then that's just going to sit in your Brightspace area because it's your set activity. But if you know that it's like a set curriculum that other dentals, teachers are using it throughout the country. We actually have a community sharing place that you could share and say,
Okay.
hey, we're using Brightspace. This is how we integrated it. We've been working with, more with trying to get that community growing, just because lots of people are kind of in that realm where you are right now. It's like, I'm using what I have, and I'm also using zSpace, but I kind of want to know what other people are doing.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. So, but if you need help, like just creating stuff, I have used actually all of those LMSs. I don't always have access to them because it just depends too. But like, if you want to, where are you, by the way? What is your
In
area?
Great Falls, Montana.
Okay. So
So
actually,
we have D, is it D?
yeah,
Okay.
D. Yeah. So D, there she is. So D would be able
Hi,
to
D.
help you. I'm sure you just had that original training, but Dee will be able to help you and say, here's the best way for you to do it based on, here's your curriculum, here's what you want to do with it. And she'll help you kind of merge them together and give you some
Perfect.
ideas.
That's
Yeah, and Robin, I'll sync with your trainer for next week too, to make sure that she weaves that into your training. Okay.
Awesome. Thanks.
And I think for all of you guys, this is really good information to know that anytime you have zSpace training, we customize it every time. So it is important for us to know, like if you have your LMS and you want, that's important to you to know that you needed to walk through that as a hands-on practice. We'd be happy to do that, or any other piece of that. So it's just letting us know ahead of time and we'll make it happen for you guys. So we know not every classroom is the same, right? And you guys know that too. So that's definitely something we want to make sure everybody hears on a regular basis.
Definitely.
So yay, Robin. We'll make sure that that's all set.
All right. Anybody else want to share anything? Questions?
So I'll just be the talking person.
Yeah, no.
Which really is not in my nature.
Well, then I've done my job today.
So I do know that we have, well, how do we put this? We have some older individuals, me being one of them, who we didn't grow up with technology and we're really wanting to use this as efficiently as possible. So I do know that it makes me feel really good being here for this, knowing that if I have something that I need some help with, that help is going to be available. So I truly, truly do appreciate that. Because you'll be hearing from several of the people that we have here on our campus.
That's awesome. Yeah, I wanted to show you. So this is, I'm guessing this is what you have, is these dental modules.
Yep, that's what they have.
All right, awesome. So yeah, these would be your launching points, and the codes probably would be best. I mean, you have adult students, so it's easy to tell them, all right, you're starting off with AP 107, and you can even copy it here. And so that could also be put into your Brightspace to make it easier for you to have them go to it. But they would have to be on a zSpace device. If they do this somewhere else, that's going to be, sorry, you don't have that application, because you can go to zCentral on any, it's just a web page. You can go on any device that you have. It's just you're not going to be able to launch them. So that's the difference. You can get to all the activities and all of the learning. So even if we went to our applications here and we went to your dental, and you're going to learn this inside of your training too, but like here's the videos for that on the modules on how to, and then there's the resource guides. So these would be good places for you to go to while you're, when you're not in front of the device itself, is being able to see, look, like this is already set up. This is kind of the activity for the module. So you could, even though this is stage 1, you could break this down inside of your LMS and ask them specific questions, and then have stage 2 be a whole nother set. Does that make sense? You probably see it better now. Now, where I got to this was I went to your product, your application, and I chose dental. And then once I chose the icon for dental, I went down to the resources.
Yeah, and Nick, scroll up just a minute to the top of the page. And so where it has that app information, just click on that really quickly. And so that's also showing you the different languages, because I feel like that's important for you guys to know too, as you're pushing out all of these different content and information as well. And soon, next to that little app info icon for dental, you will also see an activity button that will be found there as well. So
And the ebook is nice too.
Absolutely. But then what Nick mentioned to all of you is that each one of the applications that you purchased on your zSpace, think of it like an app on your phone. Okay, you may or may not use all of them. And so it is important, depending on what you teach, how you align certain applications to what you teach, and going and following the path that he just showed, where you go to zspace.com, and I'll let you do it again. Product, or go zspace.com.
Come on, load. Of course, now it takes forever to load, right?
Yep. Always when you're in front of everybody.
Right.
And then you'll select under the product tab, there'll be the applications tab. That's where you're going to go around and poke around and find those applications that relate to what you teach. And again, getting the information from the activity plans to the student handouts are all found on that website. Just a little bit longer to load.
Yeah, what is going on? All right.
So that's probably, that's kind of what we had in our training a couple weeks ago then too,
Okay.
right?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm looking into the site to see what's going on.
Thank you. So there it is. And there's the app info, so forth. Yeah, so we just went to product application. You could also go down here. You can scroll through this way too. Either way, it gets you there. All right, I got to bring everybody back.
Thanks, Nick.
Sure, time is up. Just so they know why they're coming back. All right, as they close. So yeah, feel free to reach out to any of us if you need help, or if you're having trouble finding something, or if you're just not sure like what's the best way. I know you probably have experts at your site that know about your particular LMS, but if you still need help, all of our customer success managers work together closely. So we can help you if one of them doesn't know an answer to something or the best way. And we just want you to use it. That's going to be more natural for you. And practice. I can't say that enough. Just get into it and try it. That's going to be your best thing. Test it out. Say, I'm going to try this. I'm going to put a question and I'm going to have you do it on the zSpace, and then I'm going to have you answer on my LMS. Like, just practice it just with a simple question, and then expand it to, oh, now I'm going to give you this sheet. You got to fill this out, or I'm going to give you this form, and now you're going to fill it out. And so if you do it in little segments, it helps you get there, but it also helps your students understand the expectations. All right, looks like everybody is back. Thank you all for coming today. Is there anything from the breakout sessions that you want to kind of bring out with a question that maybe somebody wasn't in there to answer for you? Go ahead and put that in the chat. And that's okay if people had to use. We understand some people are still in school. Apparently in Vegas, they're still in school right now. So a lot going on. So go ahead and put that in the chat if you did have questions about you weren't sure or ways that you could do. Can we share the pie chart graphic? Yes, I can. It's actually on our website too. And so you can grab it there too. If you go to Teaching with zSpace in the Education Home, you can go to the Integrating zSpace, which is great for anybody planning. Like if you're planning for the school year coming up and you are standards-based, you can go there. This is the wheel. So you, of course, can right-click and take it. But if you click on Learn More, there's all your aligned standards with zSpace activities. So you can go to any one of these too. That might be a better way to start out rather than searching one by one, but I wanted to show you both kind of ways to do that. If your state is not on here, I would suggest looking at NGSS. And if yours is a standard that is not even listed because it's like a CTE dental standard or some sort of welding standard or something like that, just contact us and we'll be able to help you, especially with those pathways. We have a whole CTE team that's going to be doing lots of sessions to help people out. All right, last part. So again, here's my name. We already had our other CSMs, customer success managers, post their stuff. So I just wanted to put that one more time just in case you didn't get it. And just to remind you that we are going to be doing a Studio A3 webinar. So our next one is going to be on July 19th, and then we'll have one following on the 21st. But the July 19th one is going to be all about Studio A3, how to use it, what's different about it, how it's better, how you can expand its use using the, actually Studio A3 can be used on a non-zSpace device with a specific license, like a site license. And so that's a nice expansion of that. So that way students can work on something in class with the zSpace and then continue it at home kind of in 2D and then follow back up in class or complete an assignment or some sort. So we'll share all of those wonderful nuggets on that. So you can sign up. We'll send the registration out probably next week for people if you haven't seen it already. I know they've sent out some stuff. It got mixed up with ISTE and 4th of July. So I'm glad all these people got this. This presentation and the recording will be shared and sent to everybody. So if you missed any part, feel free to just be on the lookout for your email being sent out there, and we'll make sure you get it. Anybody else have questions or things before we end? All right. Well, thanks, everybody. Thanks for coming. And hopefully we'll see you on the 19th. If not, don't be a stranger. Reach out to us, and we're here to help you.